Well, let me start with the title of the master's, as we have been discussing about Italianity before, well, I think Italianity, as for this master, is in the title itself, because it's furniture design, learning from the Italian experience. Actually, as you will see, I'll be introducing the master with a core focus on this Italianity. On the experience itself, as these are core elements for this master's program. I would start from the core goals of the program that are actually quite well connected with the evolution of the furniture industry over the last years and with the furniture sector overall. In particular, with transformations that are dealing with let's say, different ingredients and elements. On the one hand, product development processes that are today different than they used to be in the past. So we need, let's say, more skilled designers, not only specialized in the sector, but also specialized in the kind of processes that you need to control for designing furniture pieces, but also in the transformation that occurred in markets, in particular in furniture markets, and in transformation that occurred in connection with the evolution of technologies. Traditionally, the furniture sector used to be connected with the wood industry, while today is a much more complex system of technologies that are intertwined. And in fact, what we do with the students is to give a picture of this complexity, but also means for managing the complexity itself. We look at different profiles as inputs for the master. So on one hand, we have designers that have been trained in the field, but also in nearby fields. Sometimes we have people that have been trained in architecture or interior design and want to then specialize in furniture design, but also people that come from management, from within companies, or even from managerial studies that are interested in the field of design. In this case, of course, design management is more relevant than product development, but we have both things as a background in the master's program. And in fact, this is reflected in the kind of professional outcomes. So we have research and development, namely those places where you develop new products and new collections for the furniture industry, and in positions that tend to become, at least in time, those of leading the design process within the industry or in design studios. If you go for more technical positions that also depend on the background of the incoming students, we also have a part of the master's program that is dedicated to more technical issues in the development process, and we can give shape to product engineers and technical experts for the sector. And if we move to the other set of ingredients, we have the necessity to manage brands and communication as emerging issues in the sector. In particular, I would say that over the last years, there's been a shift in companies that used to be pretty much focused on tangibles, namely on sheer product development, towards an interest in intangibles, and particularly in connecting their product portfolio with the management of their brand and the positioning of the brand and the communication and the kind of interaction that they have with their final consumers or end clients. And this is all at the core of the master, and the structure of the program, in fact, is reflecting this kind of evolution of the sector. So we have an initial part of the course, an initial module of the course, which is pretty much focused on provide students with the grounding. It is, on one hand, a technical grounding that gives means for future developments within the master's program, but also grounding in the Italian culture. So it reflects the subtitle of the master and provides an understanding of how furniture companies work in Italy and which are the reasons behind the international success. There is a second module that is fully focused on product development and is structured around product development phases. So we start from research, move to conceptualization of new products and solutions, and then go to real and sheer product development, and then engineering and manufacturing. And finally, we dedicate some time to elements that create values around products and collections that typically come afterwards, at the end of the process, but that are very relevant, namely the decisions on in particular surfaces and colors, and the way in which you can design a product or a collection building value not only on the product itself, but also on the kind of solutions that you find for surfaces and colors. Then we have a more strategic part of the master's program that is dedicated to brand design and direction. This has become very, very important over the last year, not only for the Italian brands, but for international brands, not only in the furniture sector, but in many sectors. What we do is to make designers aware of these issues and try to find better connections between the design of products collections and the management of product portfolios and the positioning of the brands. And finally, with a view to the introduction of new means for interaction with consumers and new technologies, we have a module that is dedicated to digital media and e-commerce, which was developed together with our scientific committee, which is made of designers on the one hand and companies on the other hand, and finally retail, service and exhibition design that gives an understanding of the overall value chain in the furniture sector, and particularly in this case of how products are designed not only for final consumers but also for being presented in points of sale and being sold through traditional channels and new means and new channels. Moving from the program to the layout of the master, also time-wise, what we will do is to start in November. At the end of November. We still don't have the exact day when we will start, but for sure it will be by the end of November, and have this part of the masters that I introduced, that is the set of modules and courses delivered starting from November up to June 2021, and here we conclude the, let's say, classroom activities. These classroom activities will be delivered partly online for the initial part of the master due to the current pandemic, and then we will move to classrooms and or to blended forms of teaching and learning. Then we typically have an intensive period of internship, a minimum of 300 hours, but in most cases the duration can be a bit longer, also due to the needs of companies and design studios. So you have internship as a relevant part of the program, and and something that relates both with the industry and with the design offices and studios. And finally, the experience is concluded with a final project and the presentation of this final project for the graduation, which will happen starting from January 22. As for the, let's say, reasons why for this master's program and diversity of this master's program compared to other programs, what we have in here is, on one hand, a tight connection with the Italian design culture, which is represented by the companies that typically bring into the teaching activities their experience, because we will have all activities, all the design activities that are fed by briefs from the companies, and the companies that will be there to also see the results and provide feedback about the results. So the industry is the other, let's say, core attractor of these master's programs, as we will see. But the program is, let's say, aiming at an international audience. It's in English, and we have people coming from wherever in the world, with diversity, which is also richness in the classroom, and the possibility of interacting with this diversity and richness, and the view to international markets, which is also the view of the Italian companies that we involve, because they are Italian in terms of style, attitude, and culture, but international in terms of markets that they serve and trajectories that they look at. So the partner companies are, let's say, one of the elements of qualification of this master's program, because we have, I would say, some of the most relevant national and then international furniture brands that are partners of this master. They offer, as I was saying, a real life experience, which is the real life experience that you have when the brief for design comes straight from the companies. The real life experience is enforced by the fact that we don't have just let's say, academics in teaching, but many professionals. So you will have a brief from a company and a professional that comes and helps students in developing their designs for these companies. Well, I don't even cite all the names of the companies, because if you're interested in furniture design, you probably already know these brands. They are some of the most famous national and international brands in the furniture field. They also offer, of course, opportunities for internship, as well as we have connections with the studios. We also visit them. So here you see some of the visits that we did with the students over the last 2 editions. So the students had the opportunity of getting in touch with companies, both because the companies came to us in our classrooms, and because we went to the companies for visits. And finally, what I would like to show to you are some of the designs of the students, so you have a better understanding of what the students do in the master's program. We have, on one hand, projects that are conducted in teams, and these are all the projects that you will conduct in those courses that I showed in the second module of the master's program. And you have individual projects, particularly the individual projects will be for the final presentation of each student. So each student will be asked to design typically his own exemplary piece of furniture as an outcome, as a final outcome of this master's program. So here you have a couple of examples. This is one of the designs of the previous students, and this is another one, again, from another student. I would then leave word to Elisa for the final slide of the presentation, as this gets into, I would say, more bureaucratic issues for applying for this master's program.
Yes, sure. Here you may find in this slide the link by which you can apply for the master. The deadline for the application would be September the 6th, but we generally suggest students not to arrive to the very last deadline, because of course the number of places for the master is limited, and also, I mean, there is a process that, apart from sending the documents, foresees an interview and so on. So it should be, let's say, organized as soon as possible. Mainly here in the link, when you enter, you will be required to, of course, fill the form with your personal biodata, and to upload the selection documents that are your CV, motivation letter in which you explain a little bit why you are interested in the master, if of course you are already familiar with the topics, and which is maybe the aim of attending the master in your case. What you expect from the professional point of view to reach by attending the master, and you are going to be required also to upload a portfolio of your projects, and the scanning of your bachelor degree and university transcript, and a scanning of your passport or ID card. These last items are mainly aimed at having also an evaluation by the proper office of Politecnico di Milano, that evaluates if the university you have attended is recognized by the Italian Ministry of Education. And mainly after having sent all of these documents through the platform by the link that you have seen here, you will be informed by email of the selection interview, of a date for the selection interview that takes place online, as a general rule by Skype. And after the selection interview, you are going to receive by email a feedback about your eligibility. So mainly that's the process for the selection.
Thanks, Elisa. Shall I stop sharing the screen?
Yes, so we actually received some questions, so we can start going through the question that our spectators asked, and also like to invite the people connected to write the question into the Q&A. Christian is asking us which are the software required for these master programs, and in terms of the internship, what would be the selection process?
As for the software, one thing that I would like to notice, because I couldn't introduce all the single courses, we will have a grounding course in the first module that is specifically dedicated to train students or to hone their capacities, if they're already familiar with some of the softwares, in using specific software. In particular, we will have Rhinoceros as a modeling software, but we will also train them for using rendering plugins. Maybe they are already familiar with some of them, and we will train them for other ones. But this will be surely done. And these are the, let's say, basic skills that they would need. As for the second question, how do we select? Well, the selection process is quite well formatted. because we have another specific short course that aims at providing students with capacities, but also at helping them in preparing their own personal portfolio. So they will end up with a portfolio which includes what they have done before the master's program, but also what they have done in and throughout this program. So they will, in the end, have their own professional portfolio. The portfolio will be sent to companies and studios based on an interview, an internal interview that we have with students. And then the selection will be made by the companies themselves and the professional studios. And well, this is the normal selection process that they run, I would say. And students get also used to this normal selection process. We try to empower them in this, so they will do this, but the means that they will use are the normal means that they use for this. Typically, they review the portfolio and they perform interviews. The interviews can be in person. Sometimes they are not in person, and they simply use conf calls.
Thank you so much. We have another question about the knowledge, like the background. Someone is asking us, I am an architect, I never worked in the field of furniture making. Do I have to get some knowledge about it before applying for these masters?
I would say, in principle, no, because we, as I was mentioning in the very beginning, we had quite a few architects that are also interested, let's say, at working at a different scale, which is not the architecture, not the interior, but the furniture, the piece of furniture itself. This might be bound to diverse situations. So in principle, I would say no, but as you have time up to November, of course, studying furniture design, at least in its history, and in quite a few publications that you find about companies and products might be of help to become familiar with the field. But we had, I would say, the majority of the students that were actually coming from being trained as architects or interior designers in the very beginning.
Thank you so much, Professor. There is another question. They ask us what is the difference between furniture design and industrial design engineering and innovation, which we just remind will be the master that we will be presenting.
Well, of course, I should have also their perspective, but I'm not sure if they're still here. But I can definitely give you mine, which I guess would correspond to theirs. In the first place, they are focused on a specific part of the design process. So I was telling you, we have courses all along this process. So we start from ideation and go to engineering and manufacturing. But of course, we do this by course, running through the process. While they are super focused on one part of the process in order to give shape to well-trained designers that are also capable of understanding engineering issues. And this is one of the elements of diversity, I think. And the second one would be that we are focused on one sector, which is very specific. It's wide, particularly if you look at Italy and at how Italy is placed in the international markets. It's also wide internationally, but it's one sector. while they're more focused and more open to also other sectors. I would say that they would probably never deal with pieces of furniture, but more with electronic appliances or appliances and industrial products such as these.
Thank you so much. We have Ahmad who's asking us what is the job outlook for furniture designers? So after these masters, what will be, let's say, job opportunities?
Well, I have examples. I must say that we are now presenting this future edition will be the third one. So we have the first one that has been concluded, the second one which is ongoing. So we are now putting students in internships, and I must say that we are doing this even though we had the pandemic. So we're still able to have in-presence internships starting from September, of course, because we have been in the lockdown and others are in lockdown now. So we are dealing with these difficulties, but still putting the students in internships. And we have quite a few examples connected with the first editions of placement of students. So we have both students that are working in professional practices. Example, we have one who is now working at Marcel Vander's design office. You know, they're based in the Netherlands, but I would say super connected with Italy and Italian companies because they're primarily working for them. And they have quite a few also Italians and sort of an Italian mindset, despite Marcel is from the Netherlands. We have students that are working in companies. So we have one hired at Magis, another one at Roche-Beaubois and others. And we also have situations in which students decided, which was probably in the very beginning in the background of their intentions, in working in their own design office. For example, we have two students who founded their own professional practice together and now working for companies. And finally, we have another category, but I'm not sure it's still be there, or else students that come from a situation in which the furniture industry is in the family. So they are here to learn and then bring back the experience in the family business. And of course, they go back and work in their own company.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this explanation. We have a question which is a bit more technical. So my interest is in ergonomical design products. Is this course suitable for me? Would you suggest this course for me?
Well, I would say yes, because it depends on the kind of specialization in ergonomics, because you have physical, but also the ergonomy of interfaces. For sure, the physical ergonomy matters if you're dealing with pieces of furniture, because not for all the pieces of furniture, but for some of them, ergonomics is quite relevant issue and provides quite a few requirements for the design of these products. Take, let's say, a chair, an armchair, a sofa, or those things you physically interact with. There's a matter of physical ergonomics. But there is also, I would say, ergonomy of interfaces. That is, it's not because these are interactive products, but there is an interface as well. And about digital, there is also a part of the masters in which we deal with digital interaction and the kind of interaction that you have in services. Because there is a part in which students become also aware of the importance of connecting products with services and creating a bundle that builds value on the mix of tangibles and intangibles.
Thank you. We received a couple of questions. I think we already briefly answered to some of these. They asked us if a bachelor degree in accessory design could be suitable for this course. And also we have another story similar to what we were saying before. So someone who has experience in a furniture store, but has a background in aviation materials. So no background in designing, if those two cases could be suitable for the course.
I start from the second and maybe give word to Elisa for the first question. So as for the second, we have experience of people that came to the master with a background in as trained salesperson. In particular, exactly the one who is now working at Magis comes from that background. So this might be the case. Probably here there is an issue of portfolio. I mean, the one that we selected used to have her own portfolio as well, but I'm not sure about this specific case.
Perfect. So it's more like a matter of the portfolio. So that could be something to work on, basically.
Yes, you fill in your portfolio with the kind of experience that you already had. It might be sector-wise, non-sector-wise, and of course, what the commission does is to judge, depending on the objectives of the master's program, but also on the potentialities that they see in the candidates, if the candidates are suitable or not.
Thank you so much.
I think it's almost mainly the same thing also for the fact of the bachelor in accessory design, meaning that especially if the university title was achieved in a foreign country, mainly it is analyzed by Politecnico di Milano in terms of being recognized officially by the ministry, by the Italian Ministry of Education and University, and let's say that if it is a recognized bachelor, it can be, let's say, accepted from the bureaucratic point of view. But of course, there is also, in any case, an evaluation that is made by the board, as Professor was saying, on the basis of the CV portfolios, the skills that the student have. I imagine that even even for a student having a bachelor in a different specific field, just like the accessory design, of course, the specific projects would be maybe distant from furniture design, but the student should have at least an approach, an idea of how to design, some skills also from the technical point of view in terms of software knowledge and approach to the design project and so on. So I would say that from the technical point of view, it is much a matter of recognized title or not. And then from, let's say, the official selection, of course, it takes into consideration both the fact of having a recognized degree or not, but also the skills that students need to have.
Thank you so much, Elisa. We have a question about internship. We already touched it a little bit before. I just want us to clarify if students have to look for their own experience or is actually suggested or helped by the university.
This is allowed. I mean, in the first edition in particular, we had a couple of situations in which students came with their own proposal for the internship. It's not only allowed, but also assessed, because we also have to see if it fits with the objectives of the master's program. And this is what we did in these situations. We can also help students, as you were mentioning, as an hypothesis. In general, what we ask students not to do, because we have a quite large now list of contacts across Italy in terms of companies and studios, is to apply on their own or propose themselves to those companies and studios, because this creates sort of a double process that is, of course, making things more complex, particularly for companies and studios.
Thank you. We also have another question, which I'm not sure if we will be able to answer, is how can designers increase their earnings?
Well, but this is a matter, as far as I see and know, it's also a matter of what they do and the progress that they have in their career. I mean, it depends on if they are beginners or experienced designers and what they actually do. What I would say from the perspective of the master's program is that the kind of approach that we have, that is to provide an understanding not only of product design, but also what is around product design, and that brings values to the companies, matters, because it brings value to the companies, and then companies recognize that this value has been brought there. And so designers that are not only sheer product designers, but do understand these overall frameworks are of course more valuable than traditional furniture or product designers.
Thank you so much. We also have time for some more questions. We have a question, they ask us, as an international student, would you recommend doing this master's now or wait for the coming year? Do you think it will affect the process?
I don't think so. On one hand, we forcefully, I would say, but we have been pretty much trained to distance teaching and maybe also students to distance learning. So we accelerated this pretty much over the last months. And we are now, I would say, capable, able, and also technologically ready for this. So we will have an initial part of the master program will be delivered as such, and then a part which will be in presence, which also corresponds to the kind of evolution that we expect to actually have. I see that this blended modality can also even add value to what we do, because we have recognized in what we have been doing over the last months value for the students in terms of our capacity to be more precise on some specific points, the kind of situation where they are that makes them make for them easier to follow our presentations due to environmental conditions, but also we have experienced means of interaction among students for doing designs in teams that work very well. So I don't think this is a big issue.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We're actually about to end this presentation. I'm not sure if you want to leave us with a final piece of advice for the people who are listening to the presentation.
It's just a matter of pointing some things. The one is tight relation with the Italian industry, not only culturally, but also because we have the companies in the master. Second one, real life experience that is based on the participation of these companies, but also experienced designers, some relevant Italian designers that are part of the faculty for this program. Online, you find everything, the information about who they are, quite a few also videos in which if you peer into those videos, you will also see interviews to these professionals, to the students. You will see the visits that we do to the companies, etc.